Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale. And honestly, Shane, this is probably the most excited I have been to go into a podcast after a game that we've done. I mean, we've been doing this show for 2 years, and I'm just over the moon right now.
Eric, this is our, I believe, and I'm trying to go off memory here. This is our 118th episode. This is our second Arizona football victory to discuss. And really, I would say the first real victory. I mean, the one at Cal was great last year just to get the monkey off the back, with the losing streak. This was an actual win that they went out and earned, and didn't just win, but they won soundly. And I'm glad to be wrong about my pick. I told, and I hope no one listened to my gambling advice, because I told them to take San Diego State and take the under, and I was 0 for 2 on those. So, but thrilled that they finally got W. I know I want to hear about it, because I know you're out in San Diego and you actually got to experience that stadium in person, along with the 100-degree heat. I
did. As you can hear my voice, still not 100% thus far. This is the first time in maybe 10 years or so that I actually was kind of yelling out loud during the game. I was 14 rows up in the end zone. I think that was the south end zone at Snapdragon Stadium.
Did you go back to see if you were on TV at any point?
I did not. I don't care.
I bet you would.
I doubt it. Yeah. Let me just say the stadium is very nice. It's smallish, but it's got like every little area is like a cabana or a club or some kind of. I mean, it's pretty cool.
What's the seating capacity there?
It's like 35 or so. Now,
okay.
One thing that if you watch the game on TV, as most of you did, it looked like a lot of empty seats. The place was full, but everybody was trying to go under shade because there was no shade. The only shade in the seating area essentially was below the scoreboard in the south end zone. That was a couple sections over from me.
No retractable roof on this college stadium.
Well, it's San Diego. I mean, what are the odds that usually it's going to be that way?
It was Arizona Wildcat weather in San Diego.
So here's the thing about this stadium. Very nice. It's better than the dump that Qualcomm used to be. But they decided there were a couple of flaws outside of the lack of shade, where people just stood there hours before the game so you couldn't get shade. Listen, it was humid. It was hot. I'm from Arizona. I could handle it. Fine. The other problem they had is when you go get a drink, you want a soda. They have the refill your own soda machines. Problem is the ice was out on some of them and the actual flavoring was out on others.
So they didn't actually expect people to use the machines. They just they're there for show.
Refillable soda in 100-degree heat.
Right.
I mean, what could go wrong? Yeah. So there was a video. I don't know if you saw, one guy did this thing on the TikTok. It's all over Twitter now, that he did the flaws of Snapdragon Stadium. I think he summed it up pretty well. I mean, people with the heat, the emergency personnel were everywhere. All I did during the intermission was like literally walking around trying to find ice. Like, just give me ice.
Yeah.
So I drank 2 warm sodas during the game, which is gross, but it's all you could do. The stadium was nice. The fan support for Arizona was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
There were U of A chants you could hear over TV, which I can't remember. And I tweeted about this. I can't remember the last time I heard U of A chants at a road football game. You hear it for basketball all the time, but not for football.
Shane, it was one of the great days that I've had personally in a long time. I'm a single guy, so let me preface that. But it was one of the great days, just in general. It was a great day.
And you know what? You deserve it. And I mean that. For those who don't know, everyone likes to give Eric a hard time, and that's because he's such a good guy. And you deserve it. You didn't get to go to the Cal game last year because you got the COVID, and so you didn't get a chance to be part of that victory. I'm so glad you were able that Arizona, first of all, they came through with your tickets, and you're able to go out there and enjoy the win, and then go to Del Mar and enjoy the horse races afterwards too. So very happy for you. Glad you got to see a victory, and hopefully it will become a trend. Hopefully you bring the good mojo back to Tucson with you.
Yeah. So Steve Kerr was at the game, and then he went over to Del Mar like I did, and he brought the NBA Finals trophy, which I saw from a distance. I guess the Stanley Cup was there as well. Eric Johnson from Colorado, the Avalanche, brought it over, and we also saw one of the great horse performances for those of you that follow horse racing from Flightline over at Del Mar. So for me, it was just an amazing sports day. But to see Arizona absolutely dominate the game like that, Shane, on the road in an environment where, let's be honest, like, I didn't pick him to win. You didn't pick him to win. Blair Willis did last week. Many props to him. None of us thought Arizona was going to win the game by double digits. It was a pure ass kicking. That's what it was. And I know that you tweeted out after the game, great win for Arizona. San Diego State stinks. They might. I don't know.
I just thought they looked uninspired, Eric. They looked like
that was the problem around the program.
And
Shane.
maybe because I didn't think that there was going to be an issue with all the off-field stuff. I didn't think it was going to be a distraction, but maybe it was. They just did. In the fourth quarter, Eric, they're down 18 points. You need 3 scores, and they're running the ball with like 6 minutes left. I'm like, I didn't mind it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like if I were a San Diego State fan, I'd be screaming at my TV.
They given up. I said the same thing. I left with 6 minutes left because I was like, I want to get Del Mar. I'm ready to watch the Ponies. I mean, the game was over. When they were running the ball, and you're like, what are they doing? I think they knew that Burmeister was terrible, former Arizona commit.
He was out of the game by then.
He was, and we're going to talk to, by the way, I didn't promote our guest. I was so excited to get to this. Our buddy Barrett Baker, former special teams captain for U of A back in the 90s. He's going to join us later, break everything down. He's great at analyzing things, so we'll get his opinion on everything. I know he is not a Braxton Burmeister guy, just in speaking.
I don't think
with
any
him,
Wildcat fans are Braxton Burmeister guys.
Remember, he was a commit to Arizona back in 20.
He did the reverse 17? Reverse T-Mac. He went to Oregon at the last minute after committing.
Right, and then he went to Virginia Tech after that.
Yeah,
and San Diego. He's on his third school. He was dreadful. I mean, this team with basically 2/3 new players was unbelievable. Shane, this was not Arizona football that any of us had been used to. And I can't freaking wait to go see more games in person this Saturday. I don't care how late the game is. I know I whine about it and everything. I am so excited to watch this team. They are fun to watch. It was great.
Well, and another thing I got wrong, speaking of things I got wrong this past week is, potentially this one as well. You said that there might be a sellout if they for the Mississippi State game, if they beat San Diego State. And I said, not a chance. Well,
I think
they've sold over 40,000 tickets, I think, before the San Diego State game. So you'd think maybe they get that. What's the capacity now? Like
51? I think, they knocked off about $5,000 in the last few years.
They may get close. My hope is that when they show the stadium, like they show like the wide shot of the stadium, it looks full.
I'm going to say mid-40s. I don't know about sellout, but
that's fine.
It's hot. It's still a night game. It's still September. It's a big game, but this performance by Arizona was by far the best performance I'd seen from an Arizona team. I mean, the last road game they won, Shane, I think was October of 2019. We had seen them beat UCLA, and then they went on
Colorado.
The road Colorado, yeah. And then they had lost everything else since then. This was a team that, like, they forgot about their identity. These new guys that were brought in, they just didn't care. They weren't accustomed to losing.
Yeah.
Let's break it down right now. I just wanted to get at the whole Snapdragon experience, which nice stadium.
I think it should be called Jetfish Field at Snapdragon Stadium.
It might have to. I'm not going back anytime soon. First of all, San Diego State does not play Arizona at home in at least the next decade or so, but never again in September
unless they join the Pac-12.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I don't think Arizona will be a part of anyways, but that's beside the point. Great CBS exposure, Shane. You can't. That was in itself to get Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, the normal SEC crew, calling Arizona football in a big win.
Yeah.
You can't pay for that kind of exposure.
They took advantage of it. Absolutely. Yeah. That was huge. Great to see them have a matinee game where even people on the East Coast could watch, even though there are some other games going on at the time, but they got a lot of national attention too. ESPN, whoever, I forget who did like the weekly recap of all the games that took place on Saturday. He mentioned Arizona, said they were a laughing stock for a long time, and now look at them come out of the gate swinging. I like, beyond other things, Eric, I liked how Arizona responded to some adversity in this game when after a couple of turnovers, after the miserable punt that they blocked on their own, and I tweeted out too that I'll take a not top 10 play. I'll trade that for a win every day, every week, the rest of the year. But those were the kind of plays where I think last year's team would say, here we go again. And I think it's an advantage this year to have a bunch of guys who weren't on last year's team, even though I thought it was going to take them longer to gel. And in some ways, I think they're still working on that. There's a lot of room for improvement, as Jeff Fish has already said. But I think having a lot of guys who didn't experience those losses and that failure and this what else could possibly go wrong attitude definitely paid off in situations where they would have crumbled under pressure inside the red zone or after a dumb play or after a turnover. It didn't happen this time.
No, let's get to buy or sell, which is presented by our friends at Ice Shaker. Check them out, iceshaker.com. Use promo code Wildcat Country, capital W, capital C, and to get $5 off. And trust me, with the way that Arizona played on Saturday, and hey, the momentum that we all have, get one of these things. These are great. And I wish, Shane, that at Snapdragon Stadium that I had this thing. Because I needed it. It was bad.
Well, and you're excited. Your voice is cracking like crazy, dude. You're still excited after Saturday.
During the game, Shane, I was up and I'm like my arm is going in motion. I know people watching the video, it's one thing, but if you're listening to the podcast, like I'm like cheering them on, like yelling. And that's just not me. Yeah. You hear me on the podcast, but at games, actually, I'm rather quiet. Like I don't like to say a lot.
Is that a result of being at someone else's stadium? Because you know how visiting fans
No, but I was in the Arizona section. Nobody cared. Okay. Yeah. The thing is, when I was younger, I would yell and then I wouldn't have a voice for like days. So I just tried to stop doing that. You get older, you're like, you couldn't help. There were so many good plays. Yeah. Number one in buy or sell, Shane. Buy or sell, Arizona might actually be pretty good. Like bowl game level good.
I'll buy it. Yeah. They might be. Yeah.
Might be. Yeah.
We need to see more. I want to see more of, obviously want to see the Mississippi State game, which we'll get into. I want to see more San Diego State because I would love to see San Diego State just come out and I'm not sure who they're playing next, but just trounce whoever they're playing next. That would make me feel better about the win.
They're not trouncing anybody this year, Shane. Let me tell you.
Unfortunately, no, probably not. But no, they just might be. And what I like about it, even though I'm still skeptical that they're a bowl team, just because their schedule remaining is still very difficult, and I still think there's a bit of a learning process there. Even though they looked apart in week one. I think I think it's going to take a while, but I do like the fact that Jedd Fisch is never satisfied. He's a tactician. He's up at like 4 or 5 a.m. in his office, the lights on. I'm going to guess he had Jaden DeLora in his office at 5 a.m. Sunday saying, hey, we're going to run these plays again this coming week, just like he did with our guy Wilton Spate back in the day. He told us that story when he was Wilton Spate's quarterback coach at Michigan. So I think that Jedd is never satisfied, and I think he's like, look, we played a great game, but now there's film. And Mississippi State's going to be ready. It's going to be a tough trip for them. But I think you're going to see plays next week that I think you haven't seen before. And I think the differences between last year and this year is Jedd Fisch actually has the guys who can execute those plays. I think Jedd Fisch was a little too smart for his own good last year. I think that they can be very good. Obviously, Jacob Cowing looked the part. Jaden DeLora looked the part. On defense was better overall than I thought they would be. We'll wait and see, but could they be? Yeah, I'll buy that they could be a bowl team.
I tweeted out, I was tweeting a lot during the game for some inexplicable reason in the heat. It was just, I don't know, maybe it got to my head. I tweeted at one point, Jedd Fisch is putting on a masterclass of play calling. I think there was like early second quarter, and he did. It was by far the best play calling that Jedd has made at Arizona. I mean, it was light years better than anything we saw last year. Now he has a lot better players. But it was a brilliant game plan. And one thing, and we'll talk about this with Barrett, but the decision on the first drive of the game, Arizona gets a 3.5 from San Diego State, and they go for it on 4th and 1 inside their own territory.
Jedd's
at like their own 30-something.
He's a stubborn guy. I think that's why he did
it. But you're facing a very good defense on paper. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what?
How different could that
is he doing?
How different could I think there are certain plays in the game, like we all looked at the touchdowns, obviously, and the turnovers, but there are certain plays in the game where, okay, it's like like a parallel universe. Like this game could have gone completely different if this play had gone differently. And that was the first. And there were several of them. But yeah, it's one of those plays where if it works, it's ballsy, it's gutsy. If it doesn't, you're an idiot and you're reckless. And thank goodness it did work. And they, this is why they invested in DJ Williams, even though we looked and saw they got plenty of running backs. Why do they need another one? That's why. You have a guy like that who can in that situation.
Yeah, he definitely looked the part. Listen, I mean, if Arizona wins one of the next 2 weeks at home against Mississippi State or North Dakota State, my prediction is that we will be using the words bowl and game in the same sentence at some point in November.
Absolutely.
That they will not be eliminated from bowl contention by mid-November. I think going into Washington State, they will be at least still eligible to get to 6 wins. That is my prediction.
Do you remember before the season started and we said, look, if they're better than we expect, we could easily see a path to 4-1 based on how their schedule.
Yes, we did say that. Yeah.
I could still see that. I could absolutely see that happening.
Shane. I can see 5-0.
Well,
I could.
Well, let's see what happens Saturday. But yeah,
I know. Yeah, we'll make our picks at the end of the show. But I mean, if you win this week, and then you are going to be favored against North Dakota State, and then you get Cal on the road, they're not very good, and then you get Colorado, who stinks, 5-0 with Oregon coming to town, Shane, and they just lost 49-3.
Yeah,
I mean, Arizona at that point is ranked, and College game day probably not coming to Tucson. But I'll tell you what, they probably, depending on what's on the slate that week, Arizona's 5-0 hosting Oregon.
1 week at a time, Mr. Cohen.
I know.
1 week at a time.
Sorry, got a little carried away. Number 2, Shane, buy or sell. Jaden DeLora showed that he very well might be the most poised and accomplished Arizona quarterback since Matt Scott in 2012. Buy or sell.
Poised is a good word. You know, he made a couple of mistakes, some bad throws, some bad decisions, but overall he did very well. I think his offensive line also did him some favors and gave him a good amount of time to throw. But yeah, poised, confident. He doesn't lack for confidence, but not to the point of arrogance. Definitely not reckless. Doesn't make knee-jerk decisions, unlike a guy who's immensely talented, but Khalil Tate back in the day. So yeah, maybe Matt Scott, maybe the guy who's comparable. Maybe Anu Solomon in his freshman year. Before that, certainly Nick Foles. But yeah, I'll go ahead and buy Matt Scott. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you want to go Anu. Is still a freshman, so you couldn't use him. Khalil Tate, Khalil Tate, the word poised.
Yeah. I think BJ Denker was a poised guy too. He wasn't the best passer. So.
Jaden DeLora made a play that nobody will talk about again in the first half, where I said, "Whoa." He was rolling to his left, and he threw across his body for a completion towards the sideline. Arizona was driving, and it was on the opposite side of the field from where I was sitting, and I was like, whoa, that is a really, really hard play to square your body and make a throw like that. Like, we haven't seen an Arizona quarterback who's able to make that throw and put it on the button in a long time. I'd have to go watch the game to know exactly what point that was, and it was like a 6-7 yard completion, but it was a wow play. DeLora made one mistake, that interception, but outside of that, he was brilliant. 299 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. He was great. I'll buy everything that Jaden DeLora after game 1. So that's easy. I mean, this might just be a buy fest all night, Shane. I mean, listen, we're recording on Monday night, so let's go with number 3.
It's a bull market.
With Jacob Cowing, who was phenomenal, and T-Mac, Arizona might have its best duo of receivers since, you name them, Shane. Is this the best, at least in the last 25 years? Can you think of a better set of receivers at the same time for Arizona? Mike Thomas and Rob Gronkowski, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, I was trying to think of duos. I mean, certainly if you look at like the receiving core, you think back to Jaron Kreiner and then the Davids, Roberts, and Douglas. That was a nice trio. But I think and let's not forget Dorian Singer as well. I think he could be the number 1 guy on at least a handful of FBS teams. So yeah, if you talk about duos, like wide receivers specifically, I don't know. Jaron Kreiner was great, and then you had any number of guys who could have been the number 2. So I'm trying to think of great Arizona wide receiving duos in history, and I can't think of a lot just because
I can't either.
There have been a lot of great ones, but not like 2 great ones at the same time. So I'm struggling. You sent me these questions earlier, just in full disclosure, and I really struggled to think of an answer for this one, and I'm still struggling.
By the way, T-Mac's first catch was a touchdown, and he got popped.
Oh, yeah. And you were there. You were right there to see it.
It was right there. I mean, that's right in front of my seats. Yeah. And, we had talked about, I don't remember who we had on the other week. I think it was Corey Leff. And he said, yeah, the reports on T-Mac is, he's just not a physical guy. He's not really there for the contact.
He got welcomed to college football in that play, didn't he?
And they, I'll tell you what, they kind of helped him to the sidelines, and I was watching it, and they were kind of checking him out. And the next possession, he was right back in, and that's what you want to see.
Well, and he made another great catch too when he had to come back for the football later in the game. Our guy Matt.
That was a great play.
Matt Moreno tweeted out a video of when he was in high school doing the same thing, coming back and making a diving.
That
catch.
Awareness, though, Shane, is just it's. But you look at Cowing. I mean, and here's the thing: I didn't know what number Cowing was to start the game. I didn't have my, they didn't have programs or anything like that. So I'm like, what is it, 6? No, that's Singer. Is it 5? I mean, he stands out. Once he got the ball the first time, I was like, whoa, this guy's legit. And he just put on a clinic. 3 touchdowns, 150 yards. I mean, the guy was phenomenal. There's a reason NFL scouts are talking about him as a day 2 pick. I mean, this guy, he can play in the league right now. This might be, obviously for this year, the best pickup that Arizona's had, even more so than Delora, because he just makes plays. He had a play near the goal line where he scored, where he caught it, and that was also right in front of my seats, where he took the guy out wide and just flat out outran him. We haven't seen an Arizona receiver that's been able to do that, at least in my memory, in quite a while, Shane.
Yeah, I think you said it. The awareness on the field for both those guys, not just the route running, the executing the play, but just the awareness. Like, what happens when a play breaks down? What do you do? Those are guys who are going to bail out Jaden Delora in certain situations when he needs it, and that's going to be massive. And I think it's not just those two guys; you have others as well. I would actually like to see the running backs get a little more involved in the passing game going forward. Yeah. I think they probably will be. But just for this game, Cowing, he's not going to do 3 touchdowns, 150 yards every night, but he'll have at least a couple more of those performances. And in the meantime, I think you're going to see T-Mac, Dorian Singer, any number of the tight ends who are, any 3 of them are all like in the oars or on the depth chart. I think you're going to have a lot of different guys who are going to be number 1 or number 2 on receiving yards for Arizona this year.
By the way, let me give you some credit from last week's show. One of the buy or sell questions was over. I think I put 12.5 touches for Arizona's freshman.
Coleman got 12 in his own, didn't he?
He got 13. Rayshon Speedy Luke got 4, and T-Mac got 3. Yeah. So right there, I mean, that's what is that? That's 20 right there.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen that way, but yeah, I got that one right.
Yeah, Coleman was a closer there. He and DJ Williams, true closers. All right. Number 4, Shane, the biggest surprise on Saturday outside of the lack of ice and soda at Snapdragon Stadium was Arizona's defense, which looked a lot more competent than any of us could have expected.
I'll buy it. I think along with the offensive line, which I think was great in pass protection, run, is okay, but San Diego State is great against the run. But yeah, overall, I think that they looked light years better than they did last year as well, at least in certain aspects. And the unit as a whole wasn't bad last year.
Right.
They definitely looked better. They looked more disciplined this year, yeah. I would say, or in this game. And they're going to need that going forward. Our guy, Blair Willis, who was on our show last week, noted that their next opponent, Mississippi State, they had 450 passing yards in their win against Memphis. 256 of those yards were after the catch.
Wow.
So they're going to need to do some open field tackling. That's going to be crucial. They're going to have a chance to win, along with getting pressure on their quarterback. I know we're going to break that game down a little bit more, but based on what I saw in the San Diego State game, that's at least plausible. They only sacked Braxton Burmeister one time, but they got on him a lot. If he wasn't a mobile guy, he would have gone down 4 or 5 times, if not more. So I was thrilled with what they were able to do against him. They limited the running game. San Diego State tore them up again on the run.
We talked about that last week. Yep. Under 200 yards, well under 200
well
yards.
Under 200. So I think they played San Diego State to even on the ground. If not, they might have even won that battle. And then the passing game, they won that easily. So top to bottom, I think their secondary looks strong for the most part, although they didn't have to make a lot of plays. I think Burmeister threw the ball 10 times altogether, so we didn't get to see a lot of them. We're going to see a lot more of them in Tucson this weekend. But overall, I'll buy that they were the most pleasant surprise, along with the offensive line.
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, I'm trying to avoid the special teams mishap, but Arizona basically gave up 13 points on defense, which was phenomenal. I mean, they played great, and Jerry Roberts was everywhere. The secondary, I mean, what San Diego State had 6 completions, something. I mean, they were bad passing the ball. So I was really, really impressed with Arizona's defense. That's a must buy. I'm just throwing buys out here. All right, last one here. Bonus question. The Arizona-Mississippi State line seems like it's too much, Shane, not to make a prediction here. It's around double digits. It's 11.5. It started at 13.5 on FanDuel. It's down to 11.5. On DraftKings, it's 10. I've seen it as low as 7.5. But anywhere in that double digits just seems like too much. Buy or sell.
It's funny because I actually thought it was going to be closer. I thought the line was going to be between 3 and 6 points. But I actually agree. I actually agree with around 10. I think that's about right. And I think that takes into account that Arizona's better. I think Mississippi State's a very good team. And I know I don't want to get into this a little too much because we want to save that for the last segment. But I think they're a top 25 team. even though they're not ranked in top. Maybe they will be by the time that we release this, the next round of rankings. But I think they're that good. They're a very well-rounded team. I do think that you could certainly argue, Arizona's impressive win against San Diego State, combined with the game being in Tucson, it being essentially an 11 p.m. start. Is Mississippi on Eastern time?
It is 10 o'clock start.
10 o'clock start for them.
Yeah,
still.
Yeah.
That's late. So you take all those things into account. I think it probably should be a little closer, but it makes it a tougher pick for me. So we'll let that be a teaser for our last segment. But I don't. Is it too much? It's more than I expected, but I wouldn't say it's too much.
All right. So you're going to sell that. I'm going to buy it. I think it's ridiculous. I think the fact that odds makers are not watching what Arizona did to San Diego State. They are looking at Arizona last year and in the previous years. By the way, let me just give a score, Shane, that may be relevant here. Last year's bowl game, and bowl games are what they are, a depleted Texas Tech 34, Mississippi State 7. Mississippi State was a double-digit favorite in that game and lost 34-7 to a Texas Tech team that had an interim head coach.
Okay.
I would probably watch that tape if I were Jed Fish.
That happens in bowl games sometimes, though, when a team expects to do better and they go to a bowl game they really don't want to be at. So I'm not making an excuse, but that's just not a shocking result.
I will say this. I tweeted out on Sunday morning that at 13.5, betting Arizona at plus 13.5 is a bet your house pick. Like if I had a house that I could afford to bet, that's one I would do it on. I'm serious. Now down to, I think 10.5 is the magic number for me. Okay. I would be surprised after what we saw on Saturday, if Arizona lost by more than 10 points. I think anything below that, I mean, we'll get our picks later on. I think double digits, 10.5, 13.5, especially. I think, unless Arizona reverts to their old selves, I think they're a great bet this week.
Completely fair.
Coming up next, Barrett Baker, special teams captain and analyst extraordinaire, joining us here on Wildcat Country. Scooby, we sent you an ice shaker. They are a sponsor, courtesy of our buddy Chris Gronkowski. You have it right there.
I love my ice shaker. Fun fact: when I trained with Glenn Gronkowski, when we were trained together, people thought I was the other Gronk brother. So it's kind of funny. But yes, I love my ice shaker. It is very good. I use it every day. I am a veteran to the ice shaker game, by the way.
What's up, Wildcat Country? Chris Gronkowski here. Use coupon code Wildcat Country at iceshaker.com.
All right, Shane, this is exciting to be able to talk about a win. We haven't been able to do that basically on this show, and we're very excited to welcome former Arizona special teams captain Barrett Baker joining us here in Wildcat Country. Barrett, we haven't had you on since, I believe, the middle of last October, and we had you on after a loss. I think it was one of our live post-game shows. It wasn't great. We're glad to have you back on after a win. Just your thoughts on everything that we saw on Saturday.
It's amazing what a Wildcat victory can do for our overall health and well-being.
Yes.
And I say that tongue in cheek, but honestly, this program and Arizona football, it's really important. It's important to Tucson. As an alum, I live and breathe. I am an avid Wildcat fan, and we've been through some tough times over the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. So to get this win, to start the season off with the expectations, winning the offseason, having all that, but then to go out and take care of business for 60 minutes, just an awesome feeling. I'm so happy for the program.
Yeah, Barrett, first of all, I think it was after the Colorado game where Arizona got shut up by a very bad Colorado team that we had you on last year. So I'm glad we're having you on finally under some happier circumstances. Eric and I have already talked about some of the things we liked most from what we saw in San Diego. What are some of the things that stood out to you?
I just all aspects of the game, I felt like we were better than they were. I think when we were tested a little bit in the third quarter and there was a little resiliency, the last 5 years, we would have found a way to lose that game. We would have folded, I think.
Yep.
And listen, there was two plays that were critical to me. When they had the touchdown called back from the holding, which would have tied the game up at 17, to get that turnover immediately and then go down and score points, huge momentum. And then just the fluky blocked punt in the end zone. Again, another chance for the momentum of the game to really, really swing. But we battled back and we kept our nose in it. And I think that was just a huge testament to the belief and the culture change that we've seen in that program over the last year.
Yeah, I think you could probably attest to this, that I think it's become as much of a mental thing, or it had become as much of a mental thing for Arizona as anything else. I mean, the talent wasn't there either, but I think last year, this team would get inside the 10-yard line, get first and goal, and they think, oh, I feel like they would collectively think the same way we did. How are we going to find a way to blow this? Right. How big a deal is that for a team, especially with so many new guys who haven't experienced that, to come in and bring that kind of fresh mentality, do you think?
Who has taught our players how to win? And I mean, that's a simple question, but they don't know how to win. It was never taught to them. It was never passed down from seniors to juniors to sophomores to freshmen. When was the last time we've won as a program? So I think that I said the other day, we had become accepting of losing, if that makes any sense, where we weren't expecting to win. So you have to expect to win when you line up for 60 minutes. And we've gotten to the point it was acceptable to lose. And I think that has changed. That really has changed. I think it's changed with Coach Fish when he says, trust the process. I think his resume, obviously, the coaching staff itself and the NFL talent that you see on that coaching staff, they've walked the walk. They're like Ric Flair. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Love it.
Well, they've done it. Yeah, they've done that. And I think that it's starting to trickle down. And now all of a sudden, when we believe, when you know the guy next to you is doing what he's supposed to do, and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, it gives you that confidence that San Diego State put it on us last year. And to flip that and put it on them, I actually think there's a lot of symbolism with that there's a belief in the program. And I think that we're going to really enjoy this team.
You just made Shane's night, Barrett, with the wrestling reference.
Well, you probably sounded like Ric Flair after the game, right? That's what I'm saying. Woo! Finally.
That's my voice. That was my voice during the game, Shane, is the reason I'm still a little hoarse today. Barrett, I'm going to I got to give Shane a little ribbing here. So after the game, I saw on Twitter that Shane was saying, Arizona is a good win for Arizona, but San Diego State stinks. When you watch that game, would you say that was accurate, or would you say Arizona was just flat out a lot better than you expected?
I think that they have an identity. I don't think that they try to do things that they're not good at. I generally speaking, they're a very, very good defense that's physical. I think Delora was able to pick that apart, and I think that was frustrating for them defensively. And then with Braxton Burmeister, I just smiled from ear to ear the entire game with the physical punishment that Jalen Harris put on him. And because let me tell you, that's karma to me. I have never, dare I say, forgiven him, but he did Arizona football wrong all those years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I took great pleasure in the fact that they couldn't do anything to us. Their identity is to try to run the ball. And I think that we did a great job. They had a couple of drives where they had a couple runs, successful runs on some zone, some stretch plays. But Jerry Roberts was making them pay when they were cutting back up. He was literally coming in full speed ahead. And I think physically that we were just better than them.
How do you feel about the running back rotation where a bunch of guys are getting carries? Do you like that philosophy in general, or do you like it to just be one or two guys?
I think that if you looked back at, Thurman Thomas and Emmitt Smith and all of the great backs, they would be just, cataclysmic with how it's handled today. They're good enough backs to do it on their own. But I also think the flip side to that is that when you are able to rotate your backs, then what we had happen in the fourth quarter takes place. And they didn't want any part of number 32, right? Williams was basically just pounding them down in the fourth quarter. But I was truly impressed with Wiley. I think that he'd made a lot of improvement over the offseason. He's big. I thought he ran very, very physically. He had that catch on third down where he was able to make three guys miss and get the first down. Those are big plays at the time. So I think all three of them, Jonah Coleman, he hits the hole with super speed. There's no delaying there. And I mean, who's a guy last year that was very productive for us was Drake Anderson. And I don't know if he's banged up, but that was the guy last year that really hit the hole hard, was great between 4 and 9 yards and didn't get to the third level. But I don't know if you've seen him, but he's bulked up. He looks like a totally different back. We didn't even get to him.
He's the number 5 on their depth chart on the running back
and
position.
I mean, how does that happen? But I just think, and the other thing about Williams, I'd say is this, and this is just maybe it's a flawed opinion, but generally speaking, I'm not huge on bringing in transfers that haven't really produced elsewhere. And I mean, I say that, and it's not a personal shot, but look at Solomon from Michigan. He had 2 linebackers coaches at Michigan. he couldn't get on the field here. He's gotten passed up here as well. So with Williams being at 2 different stops, and you could say, yeah, he had some success at Auburn. But for me, I struggled with the fact that, is he going to be better than the 5 guys that we had on the roster? But then what do you know? Drake Anderson, he's banged up. Jalen John has not been able to stay healthy. So Jonah Coleman and Williams, they run like Jalen John, and he's banged up. So they've absolutely replaced him. So it's turned out to be a very positive thing. And I talked to Cindric Steptoe the other day at practice, and he said the kid is different. He runs downhill, physically dominating, and people don't really want to be in front of him. And I think you could see that.
And something Arizona struggled with their last 2 head coaches is really his depth, and that's not an issue, at least at some positions this year. I want to go back to Jaden DeLaura, Barrett, and what your thoughts on him. I mean, obviously the skill is there. He seems to have a swagger about him, and I like guys that have kind of the balance between the swagger but not arrogance. I feel like he straddles that line pretty well. He's got a short memory when it comes to bad plays, like you said. What are your thoughts on him?
I think the more I know about football, the less I know. But I know one thing: the quarterback position is where it happens. I mean, and again, I don't mean to take a shot at Plummer and Cruz and Gunnell and the guys that have come before us. But when was the last time that we had this type of belief in the position of quarterback? I mean, I feel excited when I see him get the ball and take a step, drop back, because I know that chances are we're going to get a completion. We're going to get a big play. And I just think that, I went out Fafita. I got to tell you, that kid's arm is just unreal to me. And McLeod, take away the Oregon game last year when he threw the interceptions. There's 3 guys there that I think actually could have success in this offense. But DeLaura, they all say it clicked. At one point, it clicked. And when it did, it's fun to watch. I mean, we had guys open all over the field. I guess that would be the other thing that's important to me, is that I'm going off on a tangent, but we won the offseason.
Please do.
Yeah. We won the recruiting battles. We got these big transfers. But what was the one question that we heard so often is, can Jed Fish coach? I mean, when 60 minutes are on the clock and you're in the first quarter through the fourth quarter, can we coach? And I think, you don't want to overreact or underreact after one game, but he can. He called a good game. And again, the scheme was sound. The run pass ratio was good. I think that we put DeLaura he's obviously comfortable in the shotgun, and we put him in a lot of positions where he felt confident. I think he made one bad throw that you could say. And truth be told, we had 2 guys right in the same area, and that's never good. So I think there was probably a miscommunication with the receivers on that route as well. So he's going to get better. That's the beauty of it. The more practices that he goes through, the more time he works with Coach Fish, he's going to get better. So I think this was the tip of the iceberg, but man, he's got it. He's got it.
Let me ask you about the offensive line, because that was my biggest concern going into the season. And I think the biggest concern of a lot of fans. I thought they did pretty well, especially in pass protection for the most part. The run game, it's okay, but San Diego State's got one of the best rushing defenses in the country, or at least they did last year. What are your overall thoughts from them based on what you saw so far?
I mean, listen, we're hardcore fans, but does anyone know that number 58 is Sam Lange before this game? No. And so to have a 6th lineman be able to come in and play left guard and then bump out to right tackle and swing between multiple positions and hold up extremely well, that's a good sign for us, because the trenches is a physical, difficult place to stay healthy. And, losing Jonah and having him not come out in the second half, that's a blow to the offensive line. But somehow we were able to continue to go through it. So I would say that that's probably still my one, dare I say, complaint, is that you have to get that win. And it's hard as a coaching staff to say, when do we take our foot off the gas and when do we get our second team guys in? But I believe that Lange played obviously throughout just because of injuries. But I think JT Hand was the only other offensive lineman that played late in that game. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from the second team guys, so they understand what it's like to play, under the lights, for lack of a better description, even though it was a daytime game. Yeah. So let's see, what is Borjan? What is the right tackle that's bigger than a hotel? Let's see, some of the Magnuson, Stovall, some of those guys, Woody Jean, that have been in the program for a few years. I need to see if they're ready, if they're called upon. And that's probably the one thing that is still undetermined to me. But that starting 5, I thought they played fairly well. The goal line stand where we had our punt blocked, or blocked it ourselves or what have you. That was one play where Peyton Fears just got worked on the third down pass. He just got beat bad off the line of scrimmage in a one-on-one pass protection. And because of that, Delora had to unload that ball, obviously, very, very quickly. But on the whole, I thought they held up pretty well against, like what you said, that 3-3-5 defense. San Diego State is a very, very good defensive system, and they have been for 5 years now.
All right, Barrett. One thing that we haven't discussed yet, I'm surprised I didn't bring it up earlier. Jedfish's kind of cojones. First possession of the game, Arizona gets the 3 and out. They get the ball. It's 4th and 1 at their own, 30-yard line, something like that. Yeah. And I'm like, what is he doing? Now, I like that, but what is he doing? When you're watching that at the time, what are you thinking? And regardless of the result, was that a good decision by Jedfish?
I was almost sick to my stomach because first of all, I couldn't believe that the call got overturned and that the first down.
Yeah, I didn't think there was enough there at all.
Yeah, come on, guys.
I couldn't see it at the game, so I couldn't see it.
So I think I was upset with that.
Yeah.
And then I hate to say it, but the pessimism of the last 5 years was just ruling the moment for me.
Here we go again. Yeah.
Here we go again. And this is where the game has changed a little bit for us. I think, they do the analytics and they put a lot of numbers behind things. And I think was it Simpson in motion on that? And we did just a little fake motion to him to at least move that linebacker. And they ran right behind 71. And so I think that's a belief between Baker and Jonah that we're going to get a yard. And I thought that was something that was probably confidence building to the squad, because we've already said it multiple times. San Diego State, that is not an easy team to run against. And for us to say on the first possession of the game, on our own 32-yard line or whatever it was, we're going to go for it and we're going to get it. Huge moment to me, just symbolically, very, very big moment.
It was incredible. You're like, this is a different team when they went for it against, as you said, a tough defensive line. The other thing that we haven't talked about thus far in this discussion is Arizona's wide receiving core. When is the last time, and Shane and I talked about this earlier in the show, when is the last time Arizona had a 1-2 punch that were anywhere near as good as, Cowing and T-Mac? It's amazing that these guys, I'll be honest, when the game started, I was like, what number is Cowing again? Is he that little guy? Holy cow. Barrett, this guy is unbelievable.
And let me just one up you. And I know I'm not trying to be rude. Let's say 1-2-3 punch, because how about that first half that Singer had minus the drop? He made some huge plays. And so, they're still finding their way. I guess that's what's even more exciting is that they haven't played together very long. So I think when you see that chemistry continue to develop, but going back to my little thing about transfers, and if you produced where you were at before, does that, you're going to produce here. Cowing produced. He produced big time at UTEP. And I think it's exciting to see that whatever level of competition he played against at UTEP, that didn't matter. He's a player. I think McMillan is still going to get better with his route running, because, sometimes you can see that the route running might not be there yet, but my gosh, he can catch the ball. And so it was exciting to see. And one more thing, just to kind of go on to that. I don't think Delora forces the ball. Listen, how exciting was that on third down when Tanner McLaughlin comes across on a drag route? 84, another transfer that's healthy.
I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
I've never heard of him before.
Yeah. We're going to know his name by the time all is said and done, because again, another transfer that was under the radar and he was banged up. He tore his ACL at Southern Utah. If you've ever stood next to him, then let me tell you, the guy, he fits the bill for a tight end. And between Lines and Tanner, and then obviously the future with Burnett, that position. So our offense is it's formidable. It's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, the tight ends I call the 3 oars, because you look at the depth chart. There, it's Keon Burnett or Alex Lines or Tanner McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Rich, I love the oars. Jed doesn't do quite as many of those, but that's one where he did. Let's look ahead to Mississippi State, Barrett. You go from a team that's run the ball, ground attack, methodical, to Mike Leach's air raid offense. He's got the prototypical Mike Leach quarterback in there, Will Rogers. How do you go about stopping those guys?
It's really interesting, because Washington used to dominate Leach when he was at Washington State. And they basically said, yeah, there's your 5 plays. We're going to take them away. I mean, it's not rocket science what they do. But they do have a scheme that is very simple in nature. But if you have a good quarterback and they can make the right reads, then it's challenging. And they're not going to hit you for the 50-yard shot. It's a controlled passing game where they're very comfortable getting 3 to 5 yards of play. That's all they're looking for. And then when you break down and you get a little bit antsy because they keep hitting you short, that's when they take something and make you pay. So it's just going to be discipline. I think Manson had a great first game as a defensive coordinator. I mean, when Hunter Echols on the first snap of the game or the first pass play of the game can shoot inside and get a huge sack or almost sack, there's something to that. So we need him to be healthy. We need Deuce Davis and some of those defensive ends. I mean, I think Lane came in at the end of the game, looked very, very good. So there is going to be that aspect of our front 4 has to get some individual wins. We have to get some individual wins without bringing pressure all the time because their wide receivers are good. And if they go one-on-one, they're going to win a lot of those. So a very, very important thing to get wins up front in our one-on-ones, Keon Bars, those types of guys, Parashan, Savea, 98. He had some great plays, even though he'd been banged up. So I think it's going to take that for us to really slow down their offense.
Talk about this is my last question for you, Barrett. The chess match that is the film room this week, because I'm sure Mississippi State's defensive guys are looking. How can we slow down this offense? What can we do? They're going to look at everything Arizona did right and did wrong last week, and then Jett Fish, I would imagine, has already drawn up more plays to counter that, knowing him. We had Wilton Spade on last year, and he said, like, after a big win when he was at Michigan, Jett had him back in his office like the next morning with like 20 new plays. So if you're from Mississippi State's perspective, what do you do to maybe take away some of what Arizona does well? And then how might Jett Fish go about countering that?
I think the key to any defense is to make somebody one-dimensional and to keep them behind the chains. So if they can take away our running game and put us into 2nd and long and 3rd and long, that's the name of the game anytime. But if Williams and Jonah and Speedy and Wiley can continue to get 4 to 6 yards a carry when it comes to our running game, and we're in those 2nd and 5s, then we're going to have success. So to me, that's the key. They're going to try to make us one-dimensional. And you make a team one-dimensional by taking away either the run or the pass. Which of the two they try to do, I don't know. I generally think that they're probably going to try to take away the run because they're going to have that SEC confidence or arrogance, I guess, where they're going to say, we're bigger than you. Our defensive line, our front 4 is going to be able to control your front 5. And when you do that, now you can take your back 7 to control 4 or 5 wide receivers. So it's just numbers. If their front 4 can control the line of scrimmage, that's good for them. If our line can control the line, it's good for us.
All right. So not to put you on the spot or anything, I know it's only Monday night, but let's hear your pick on this game. Does Arizona beat Mississippi State?
I'm going to say yes, and I'll tell you why. I don't think that we've had a home field advantage for a long time. I think Tucson is excited. And I think that we're going to see a real home field advantage. I think that was a big win for us. I know that the ticket sales are on pace to actually be kind of exciting. It's 8:00. That's not, something common for Mississippi State. And if all we have to do is play Wildcat football like we did on Saturday, but damn the torpedoes. Let's go for this and let's get the win.
Absolutely fantastic discussion. Barrett Baker, always glad to have you on with us. We'd love to have you on during the season. Great stuff.
Bear down, guys. Let's get the win and appreciate the time as always.
Just outstanding analysis from Baker. He should be, Shane, you and I said kind of off air, they're like, man, he should be calling games at some point, somewhere, because he was phenomenal. So great to have him on. Great analysis from him.
Gosh, yeah, I remember, because I mentioned to you, Eric, we should have Barrett on. I remember how good he was, and it's like he's really good at breaking down. I forgot how good he was and how much attention he pays. I mean, he does like a color commentator's work. Really, he's fantastic. And, when you consider his day jobs or night job too, as a firefighter, which is time consuming as well. So no, great analysis. Hopefully you and he get to see a win in person this week. And, like I said, there's excitement around the program again. And all it took was one big win on the road. And it feels like Arizona football is back now, We'll see, but I'm just saying it feels like Arizona's playing relevant football again, and that's it. We haven't been able to say that for a few years.
Let's do a really quick buy or sell on the Pac-12. Oregon lost 49-3 to Georgia. Buy or sell?
Got to sell. I actually thought Oregon was going to cover, and they didn't come close to it.
Same.
Obviously, it's going to take a year or two for them to get their footing under Dan Lanning. So, yeah, I'm going to sell them.
I'm going to sell them too. This team is not nearly as good as I thought they would be. Utah, tough loss to Florida. Buy or sell?
I'll buy them. It was a tough loss. It could have gone either way. I still think they're going to be very good. I think they're the team to beat in the Pac-12 South. All due respect to USC. So I'll buy them. It's a tough place to play.
Gonna agree with you. Buy there. Urban Meyer to ASU. There were rumors on the Dan Patrick show last week. Buy or sell?
I saw this poll that said, like, for ASU fans, like, would you want Urban Meyer to be your head coach? And a slight majority said no. Like, are you guys crazy? I would take him in a heartbeat. So no, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I feel like that. All due respect, I feel like the job Urban Meyer might feel like the job's beneath him. ASU is a good football program, but they're not top tier like Florida or Ohio State. But if they have the opportunity to hire Urban Meyer, they should absolutely go for it. Nothing twice about it.
All right, Shane, it's time for our game picks. And by the way, I'm going to sell that. There's no way Urban Meyer's going to ASU. They should hire him if possible. There's no way he would take the ASU job. So I'm out on that, sell on that. Last week in game picks, I also want to sell my picks 3-8 against the spread. You were 6-5. Blair Willis was 5-6, but he was the only one that had Arizona winning the game outright. I had him covering the spread. You had them losing.
That was one that you got right, though.
That Arizona was one of the three. Yeah. Pathetic. All right, we got an 11 pack of games. We're going to go real quick here, Shane.
Yep.
These are all against the spread. Alabama -20 at Texas. Where are you going?
Yeah, I think Alabama's the best team in the country. Maybe Texas keeps this game close for a half. I know it's in Austin, but I think Bama busted open late. I think they maybe even get a defensive touchdown in there. Their defense is ridiculous. I'm going to take Bama.
20 points is a lot. I probably shouldn't be disagreeing with you after what we saw last week. I think Texas keeps it to under 17. I hope I'm right. I want to see a good game. It's great to see these big powerhouses playing. Texas is still a powerhouse in name. Former Alabama offensive coordinator Sark. Let's hope Bijan Robinson runs through the Alabama defense and makes it interesting at least. So I'll take them +20. Tennessee, dynamic offense against Pitt, who struggled against West Virginia. Another one of my wins, West Virginia +7.5. Tennessee is -7 at Pitt. Where are you going, Shane?
I like Pitt more than the odds makers do. I know they struggled against West Virginia, but it's a rivalry game. Weird things happen. I don't know if I'd pick Pitt outright, but I like them getting 7 points at home.
I'm tempted to pick Pitt outright. Now we're recording this on Monday. I really got to think about it, but I'll definitely take the 7 points. Seems like a gift from the odds makers. Wisconsin hosting Washington State. Wisconsin giving away 17.5. Seems like a lot. I'm taking Washington State. I think the Cougs, despite only scoring 24 against Idaho, think they have a decent offensive output and stay within that spread, even though I don't think they come close to winning.
Yeah, Washington State, like you said, they struggled to get past Idaho at home. I think Wisconsin beats them soundly in Madison. I like the Badgers to jump around and all over the Cougars, Eric. You're welcome.
Thank you. UNLV is getting 13.5 at Cal. Normally, this is a game that I wouldn't want to pick, but I actually like them. And I think UNLV scored 52 even against Idaho State last week. I mean, they might be able to score. I'll take the points there. Give me UNLV with the points. Not saying they're going to win outright, but games should be close.
Now, Pac-12 isn't good, but as we learned last week, the Mountain West is worst. I'll take Cal by at least 2 TDs at home.
Houston, who is a kind of a sleeper team. They went to triple overtime against UTSA on the road at Texas Tech -3. Texas Tech quarterback Tyler Shuck, Valley in Arizona product, who was formerly at Oregon. He is now out. So I'm not sure who Texas Tech's quarterback is, but Shane, Houston at Texas Tech, Red Raiders giving 3 points. Who you got?
Yeah, without Shuck for at least a couple of weeks, I think Texas Tech is going to struggle. I might pick Houston to win, even if Shuck was healthy. I think they're going to bounce back from a tough first game. But I'll definitely pick Houston with Shuck out. I'm
taking Houston, and I will put that in my Sportsline column, which I will write at some point this week. Check that out, sportsline.com. Had to get a shameless plug.
Absolutely.
My picks actually weren't bad for a while there, and then they kind of went down.
Anyways.
All right, Kentucky at Florida, -4.5. Gators coming off a huge win against Utah, 4.5 only at home. It seems like a little bit. What do you say? Yeah, I like Mark Stoops' guys, but after seeing how Florida played against Utah, I got to take the Gators with that line. Billy Napier is doing a great job there. Yep. I think Kentucky's going to keep it closer. I think this is a field goal game one way or the other. Okay. I think Florida's going to win, but low scoring 20-17 type game. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring than people think.
Okay.
USC going on the road in week 2, -9 at Stanford. I think the Trojans win by 17 or more. The offense looked great against Rice, even though it was Rice. I don't know why I picked Rice last week and getting 30-some points. USC -9. Sounds good to me. How about you?
I agree. I'll take USC. Stanford's a shell of its former self. I think Mark May might be onto something when he said USC could be a college football playoff sleeper. I wouldn't go that far, but USC is good. I'll take Trojans.
Okay, so we have ASU is going on the road to Stillwater, maybe a future Big 12 rivalry. Oklahoma State giving 10.5. I mean, I don't think ASU is any good. I don't care what they did to NAU. Oklahoma State can score with anybody, at least for now. I think they win by 2 or 3 touchdowns against ASU, so I'll take the Cowboys to cover.
Yeah, I don't think ASU is as bad as you and others think they are. I think Emory Jones, in addition to being a pretty good quarterback, is a breath of fresh air for them. There's probably more positivity on that team right now than I, as a U of A alum, would like to see. Plus, they did well in transfer portal. They did what they were supposed to do against NAU, be that as it may. Oklahoma State just gave up 44 points to Central Michigan, so I think the Devils are going to make it a close game.
It was a backdoor cover. If you watched it was just a lot of garbage points at the end, but fair enough. All right, I'm taking Oklahoma State. All right, quick pick here, Shane. Big game of ranked teams. Baylor at BYU. The Cougars are giving 3 points to the top 10 Baylor Bears. Who you got?
BYU's at home. I think Baylor's the better team. I think they win this one outright.
I'm taking BYU at home. I think BYU is a sneaky college football playoff, not Final Four, but Final 12 contender. This is a big game, and I think the crowd will be ready. I'll take BYU with the points. Oregon State, big win against Boise State on Saturday. I did not predict that. That was one of my losers. You called it. They're going to Fresno State, and Fresno State is giving 1.5. I like Fresno State to win the game by 2 or more, so give me Fresno State. How about you?
I am all in on Oregon State. And if it all goes right for them, I think they could win the Pac-12 North this year. I'm not going to pick it, but I think it could happen. They looked impressive, especially on defense against.
Remember, there's no Pac-12 North though, Shane.
I understand, but I think that if that format was still the same, I think that they could win the Pac-12 North if it were still the same. So I think that they could be not one of the top 2 teams, but if that were the same format, I think they could finish on top. I'm not impressed with Oregon or Washington at this point. They looked impressive, especially on defense against Boise State. I think they get the win on the road.
All right. And finally, the big game. Arizona is a 10-point underdog, at least the line we're going to use against Mississippi State. Shane, give me a pick and a score if you can.
So real quick, if there's a 12-team college football playoff in 2014, it would have the first round game would have been number 7 Mississippi State against number 10 Arizona. Just throwing that out there. That would have been, but it's likely to be a high scoring game just for that reason. I think it's less likely to be a close game. I think this would be a much easier pick if the Bulldogs were favored by that 3 to 6 point range. I'm going to reluctantly take Mississippi State to cover, if for no other reason than if they do, at least I feel better knowing I got it right. It's a dumb reason, but it's my reason and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to reluctantly go with Mississippi State.
All right. You want to give a score? Yeah. How many points do you think they'll win by?
Let's say somewhere in the 48-34 range. Okay.
48-34. All right. I'm not sure Arizona's going to win this game. I'm hesitant to pick them, but I think this game is going to be really tight throughout. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think the key for Arizona, run the ball, control the time of possession, keep Mississippi State off the field. I don't think that's going to happen enough. Mississippi State 34, Arizona 30. Love the cover. Give me the points all day. I'll take those 10. I'm not ready to call the upset here. It's going to be exciting. This is probably the most anticipated Arizona football game in I don't know how long, Shane, but I'm really excited. It's going to be great. We'll be back next week with more analysis. It's so much fun to do these shows. Thank you, Barrett Baker, for coming on. Great to hear from him. Great analysis. For Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. It's always great to be a Wildcat, but right now, it's time to bear down. Have a great week.